I have a couple things. Okay, wow. Do you guys want to go down the swingers theory? I don't believe I ever unleashed this one yet. Oh, Pinto Sack wants to talk Billy. I've spent so many countless hours talking about Bill Roush. I don't particularly want to talk about Bill Roush. Do you guys want to go over a theory that I've never gone over before? The swingers theory? I don't know. Adam might be familiar with this. So I don't think the full names have ever been stated, so I'm not gonna state them. But this one's pretty tough. So this was posted in the More Murray sub by user since deleted. Some guy named Stefan C, aka Stefano. So early in the case, several different people said that Maura was seeing a guy named Stefano around the time she disappeared. There is a rumor that he was also at the Saturday party. Now, sometimes he was mentioned as Stephanos with a PH, sometimes as Stefano with an F. So I guess people maybe heard the name and never saw it written. There were a few arguments about it in the old topics forums. I believe Renner had mentioned something about the name as well. It seems someone leaked the info early on or found out about it. But that is about as far as it got, at least for those outside of law enforcement. What's interesting is that there is another individual related to Sarah Alfieri, and one of his old emails has Stefano in the handle, even though his name is not Stefano, but the email is Stefano. Ned Stefano, and apparently nobody can track that name anywhere. When trying to look into the email, background checks usually shows that it belongs to this relative of Sarah Alfieri. Usually with background checks, I have noticed that this could imply the email was shared with this family member at the same address at some point. It is clear as day, though, that this email is linked to this guy related to Sarah. It is actually showing him owning the email address, but it seems more likely he roomed with someone who had this email and they shared the same address. After seeing this, I think it is possible that there was a Stefano who roomed with this relative of Sarah. Is it possible both of these guys were at the Saturday night party, visiting from out of town maybe? So far, there seems to be absolutely no info on anyone named Ned Stefano. Apparently, so I don't know if this is that Stefano or that Greek guy, because because this guy's name is not Stefano. So Adam says, I remember researching this. The Ned Stefano thing never got anywhere because we couldn't find any info other than the email. Do you recall how many different individuals mentioned that Maura was dating a Stefano? Or does anyone know if Sarah's cousin went by that nickname even though that's not his name? Or Sarah's cousin's roommate? Did he go by that nickname even though that wasn't his name? How many different people said that Maura was seeing a guy named Stefano? Adam says, it was long ago and I don't remember ever finding a face on social media or anything matching the name. I remember a few people on forums, 2 to 3, mentioning the name Stefano or Stefanos. The old topics post mentioned it first. This kind of reminds me, wasn't there also some kind of Stefano's restaurant, possibly in Boston, possibly connected to the guy who said he had a photo of Maura's Saturn there, who sent the tip to Renner and that all disappeared? Was there some kind of Stefano's connected with that? Or actually, wasn't it or was it a Stefano who owned a restaurant there with possible mob ties? I mean, this case is so deep. I mean, we've been going over this for years. I forgot some of those details as well. So here's a post by user since deleted that I found. I'm going to share it. I'm going to share it on the screen for people who think I'm making this up. I just have to block out a name here. Give me a second. Almost done here. Okay, so this is going to be interesting. We are going into a never before examined theory, the swingers theory. So I don't know who this user is. Stefan is an older man. His and her name came up several times for possible human trafficking and other things. There was nothing regular about him. He and his wife were swingers. His wife, Tracy, spent a large portion of her time in Vegas. They were friends with the 2 porn producers that stayed at the Nootka Inn February 9th. Again, what a coincidence that these guys are coming into town February 9th. Apparently, these guys are the Yu brothers. Was she potentially selling porn movies to her clientele? On February 9th, Tracy was working in Londonderry, New Hampshire. Wow. I mean, that's just another one for the coincidence stack. Out of all the places she could have been working, she's working in Londonderry? That is where Maura's cell phone pinged off of a tower. CS never revealed the source of that ping. Okay, so who's mind shocked right now? So first of all, I've gone over these so-called porn producers, the Nootka Inn, and wasn't, again, I'm getting a little foggy here. We might have to rely on Adam in the chat here. Wasn't Officer Pepper supposedly at the Nootka as well? Was he there that night, February 9th? When these 2 porn producers just roll into town the same night there's DEA activity, U.S. Marshal activity, and Maura's Saturn rolls into town. Also, on that particular night, Tracy was working in Londonderry. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, people. If this was written into a movie, it would get rejected because no one would believe this level of coincidence. I wonder if this is the same Stefan that is connected to that restaurant in Boston by the guy who claimed he photographed Maura's car there the previous Saturday, I believe he said it was. This is actually kind of crazy because I don't think it was the Saturday. I don't think it was the 7th. I think it was the week before the Saturday the week before. So was Maura visiting Stefan or Stefanos, who just so happened to be friends with these porn producers in Nootka in the New Haverhill area, where her car ended up. Do you guys want to go over that whole situation that got swept under the rug with the vehicle? Hold on a second. We're not done with the swingers here, though. So I'm not going to post the next screenshot here because it's got a lot of names. But this user since deleted said, I come back with the same name, Stefan, who died in a motorcycle accident. His wife, Tracy, lives in Londonderry. And wasn't Jessica C in the Londonderry area as well? Or am I getting foggy now? Adam, where was Jessica C? Or was it the friend of Jessica C, who supposedly Maura might have been staying with in that off-campus house? I thought I read something about Officer Pepper at the Nootka as well. Wait, hold on a second. Wait, hold on a second. Is Jessica related to Stefan and Tracy? Is it Tracy C? Are they relatives? This would be absolutely insane. Are they related, Adam? I mean, this is, I mean, how many bridges too far are we already out here with the coincidences? South to West says, wasn't Sergeant Pepper's time unaccounted for that evening? Some of it was not, but they have him at certain places. Yes, he was unaccounted for a certain period of time, but they also did have him accounted for in certain pieces. Adam says they are not relatives. So, but do they know each other? That would be the next question. How do you know they're not relatives, though, even if they don't have the same last name? But anyway, Stefan lived in Benton and also Woodsville. Stefan and his wife were swingers. She used to ship Stefan some kind of drugs from Vegas. People at the local post office knew about it. Amazing none of this ever came to light. I would say that Stefan and his wife were friends with many of the unsavory locals. All right, once we get through this, I'll go back to the photograph of the car tip that of Maura Saturn the previous weekend in Boston at a restaurant that possibly also involved some kind of Stefan derivative, possibly. I don't know. There's so much to keep track of in this case. It's getting pretty crazy. I mean, it's been getting pretty crazy. Adam asked, what was the initial question you had about Jessica C? Who was the individual? It wasn't Jessica C. Was it Jessica C's friend that Maura was staying with? I totally forgot now. This was on one of the big podcasts I did recently on Jessica C. There was some kind of connection in the off-campus, because if Maura wasn't staying at her dorm, who was she staying with? It was the other track, it was the former track teammate, one of the last people she spoke on the phone with, Was there a connection to Jessica C with that individual? I thought someone had posted that there was some kind of connection with Jessica C and either Maura's former track teammate or somebody in that circle. Marissa C. Is everybody's last name C now? And none of these people are related. Yes, the owner of the Springfield number. Was there a connection to Jessica C between Marissa and Jessica? I believe someone on a forum made some connections, but I don't remember. Okay, so let's re-examine the Saturn sighting in Boston. Actually, give me one more second. I don't want the stream to get shut down because we might be getting onto something here. Just give me another second. I got to double check a few things. All right, we should still be good to go. Okay, so let me bring up what I do have on this. Let me make sure I got all this correct here. Did we ever go over the Masonic Temple connections with Concrete Guy? Oh man, I don't know. I don't think we went over those. Man, I think I did too much research regarding this case. Is it possible to do too much research? I'm actually having trouble finding the whole boss. Okay, actually, hold on a second. I think, actually, I have another post I have to go over as well, which has some mind-shocking info. But one thing at a time. Just try to stay focused here. The Boston... Okay, so Bonquist Ghost actually summarized this quite well, so I will go over his summary here. Adam says, it's funny that Concrete Guy put his photos back of him and Lavoie's nephew having drinks together. They were removed for a while, so I'm guessing he reads the Reddit threads. Someone mentioned that he had removed all those photos. So he just put them back just for giggles. Okay, so we're going to go down Mindshock. We're going to get really deep into Mindshock land regarding Boston. This is going to get pretty crazy, because I don't think anybody's ever done a true deep dive into Boston. So Bonquist Go summarized this. Everything is just a coincidence, right? I am again referencing Renner's blog about the Saturn being photographed by an unknown journalist when they noticed the Saturn and a truck on the pier of the famed Pier 4 restaurant, which has been demolished. We recently found out from Maggie's notes from Oxygen that Maura was seeing a guy from Boston, at least on the eve of the party, maybe more than that. Anyways, then there are also the references Renner made to unknown prominent businessmen that had salacious stories about Maura's activities. Then I recently was checking on the weirdness surrounding Billy Roush, West Point Army buddy Sam/Bob, who was on Tim and Lance's West Point episode and appeared on Oxygen both times as Bill's stand-in, all the while claiming he never knew Maura went missing in 2004 until 2015. I forgot all about that, Sam Bob. Yeah, that was pretty crazy with Sam Bob. Who remembers Sam Bob, who was Bill's stand-in, one of Bill's best buddies, who didn't know that Bill's girlfriend went missing for over 10 years? I mean, wow. I mean, even if Billy himself never said it, I mean, just the fact, how can you be somebody's best friend and not know that, just through shared acquaintances and I don't know, news reports? Sam Bob most recently worked for Boston Harbor Cruises. This is on his LinkedIn. He appears to have experience in big money investments and accounts. I'll have to listen more to know if he knew Julie as well, but I assume so, since his time at West Point with Billy Roush was the same time as Julie. So let's look at this map here on how close. Now, I don't know if Sam Bob, who knows if Sam Bob was working that exact day, but let's look at the map here. So supposedly the Saturn was photographed at Pier 4 here. And so Boston Harbor City Cruises, where supposedly Sam Bob worked at, is right next to it. That's kind of curious. That's kind of curious. Anybody else find this kind of curious? Huh. Yeah, I mean, that's right by there. Okay. The restaurant was the highest grossing one in the U.S.? What? And was owned by an Albanian immigrant, Mr. Athanas. And we actually went over that. So let's not forget the Albanian Patrit Vasi, and let's not forget all of the Iranians, including the ones more called to buy the, or supposedly called to purchase a vehicle from that weekend. Not to mention Patrit Vasi's, the Albanian Patrit Vasi's Iranian landlord. This is all in connection with. Let me get the enactment. Something, is it, it was the auto shop, the salvage and used car sales. This was, see if I still have the UMass map. Oh wow, I just found the other Stefan connection. Wow. 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 The Phillips Street address. So Maura Murray had this affair with Iranian Hussein Baghdadi. Maura was seen visiting 2729 Phillips Street in 2003, a popular party destination. And who knows whether she also visited the that weekend. An expert auto body specialist by the last name of Stefan owns 2729 Phillips Street. Expert auto body specialist. Now, Patrit Vasi's apartment building or rental house is owned by another Iranian. Now, the same Iranian who owns Patrit Vasi's rental house is the owner of Reliance Auto, whom Maura Murray or her cell phone called that weekend to buy a vehicle. Now, CJ Enterprises is who towed the Corolla from the Hadley accident. So is that enough to make everybody's head spin? So the Reliance Auto's owner, that property was previously owned by CJ Enterprises, who towed the Corolla. So they would have known Maura's movements quite well. So if this all is connected, if this really is connected to the Patrit Vasi hit and run, the amount of Albanians and Iranians that all know each other and own each other's buildings that are directly connected to either places Maura called looking for a car or the tow. And the tow truck driver gave Maura the ride to the hotel. So, this is kind of creepy, but if there is a conspiracy, they would have had eyes and ears on her throughout all of this. Now, another Albanian happens to own Anthony's Pier. Also, regarding the other Stefan, the auto body specialist, owns that party house that Maura may or may not have been staying at if she wasn't staying at her dorm. This auto body specialist may have also seen both the Hadley, or both the Corolla and the Saturn. And what would that mean? And let's also not forget the gun recovered from Patrick Vassi's dorm room. Why are cops even searching the dorm of a hit and run coma victim? Do they have the warrant for that? To go through the private stuff of a kid who got hit, who was in a coma? That never really made sense either. Pinto Sack can't take any more coincidences. I mean, this is a world record coincidence case here. The amount of coincidences here are just absolutely stratospheric. But let's try to focus here. So back to back to Bonquist Ghost here. So Mr. Athanas, supposedly this is the highest grossing restaurant in the US, or the highest grossing, I mean, this is weird. So it also had major ties to Whitey Bulger. Wait, who said they couldn't handle any more coincidences? So Whitey Bulger's brother was the chancellor of UMass, or the president of UMass. And supposedly this restaurant that the Saturn was photographed at the weekend prior to the disappearance is an Albanian who has connections to Whitey Bulger. Oh man, there's only so much of this we can handle. So anyway, continuing Bonquist Go's post here, it also had major ties to the Whitey Bulger activity back in the day, so there's great silence on the story. Well, let's also not forget that even Ghislaine Maxwell had property in New Hampshire as well. And if there's human trafficking in the minutes of the Haverhill report, I mean, was Ghislaine Maxwell connected to human trafficking activity in Haverhill, regardless of whether it had to do with Maura Murray or not? And if Ghislaine Maxwell was connected, who knows how far, or like where Epstein would have been in all that. So there's great silence on the story about the Saturn being at the pier with only one other vehicle that weekend. Some say it was a troll story without any evidence coming forward, but it was info that came out quite a while ago. And in light of recent events seems noteworthy. One can see here how close the two companies were with the Saturn, possibly in Boston that weekend. So not only all of that, but Sam Bob, Bill Rausch's best buddy and stand-in on these shows, was working just around the corner from where Maura's Saturn was spotted the weekend before the disappearance. Allegedly, if this is true, if it was really spotted there. Wow. I mean, is it possible to even work more coincidences into this if we tried? Yeah, we need Maxwell to digest this for us. Is it possible to add more coincidences? Like, is it possible? If the Saturn was moved only Monday after not being used for weeks, it would be ice snow covered, making it a bitch to get out, especially if UMass plowed it from the storm on Friday. There was never any corroboration the Saturn or Maura was seen on camera that weekend or Monday, because her father dropping her off Sunday at noonish at her dorm. Is any of that related? Maybe the hundreds of coincidences are just coincidences. We might be in the thousands now. And then, of course, we do have to add, is it possible Bill Rausch actually was in the UMass or even Boston area that previous weekend. And because he mentioned he had to go back in that one interview where we went over all this information of him possibly having to go back. Why would he say go back why would he say that if he wasn't just there? I mean, I don't know. Again, more questions than answers. So what's the story with Sam Bob? So another curiosity here. Apparently, Maggie Freeling put out information regarding who Maura was with at the party, and it was the one Maura was with was from Boston. So Bonquist Glows summarized this again as well. Much drama going around. I wanted to pick out this sentence here. Maggie is 100% verifying that Maura was hanging out with a guy from Boston. Allegedly, law enforcement looked into all of these people in the story. Yet, one interesting situation that derives from all this now is that Renner had received info from a reporter that they had a phone dated from the weekend before Maura disappeared. It was the Saturn that was claimed to have been parked at Pier 4 in Boston with Fred Murray's plate. So this was Saturday or Sunday, the 7th or 8th. There was no reason for this info to be made up or a troll way back then, especially now knowing this info about a guy hanging with Maura who was from Boston. It goes back to my claim that Maura and the Saturn may have been two separate events with no known conflation between them. Someone was trying to hide or dispose of the Saturn in New Hampshire, and things got expletive up at the corner, having witnesses making odd statements of that night. Law enforcement's silence on all of this makes one wonder who this was or how they are covered for here as well, as law enforcement allegedly spoke with and cleared them. So what kind of... So is this a prominent businessman that Maura was seeing? Okay. Here's another theory. Is it possible that Sam Bob saw Maura with this prominent businessman, and that and that just put into effect a certain series of events?